Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Johnson, and with me is Evelyn Modal. We are your co-hosts for the Interplay Podcast, a place where we ask and answer questions about everything non-speaking. If you're an individual who is non-speaking or unreliably speaking, or know someone who is, this podcast is for you. Come join us as we chat about the things that we have learned from the true experts, the autistics themselves, and listen in when we interview parents, researchers, and more.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Interplay Podcast, where I have with me some friends that you will remember. We are doing a follow-up episode today with Kat and Nico and their amazing moms. We had a wonderful discussion a little bit ago about relationships, specifically romantic relationships, and then even more specifically, the relationship between Kat and Nico. And we had a really great time talking with everybody about a lot of things, what they look for in a relationship, what they feel is most important. So if you haven't watched that episode yet, I highly recommend it. This topic is something that is pretty deep. There's really a lot to think about and to consider. So after that episode was aired, we had a few parents reach out and they had some specific questions, mostly for the moms, but we absolutely always want to hear from our spellers as well. So we'll get a chance to hear from them as well. But we're going to start off, it's going to be mostly moms tonight. So I'm going to start out with this question. And it was probably, I would say, the most asked question that we received after the episode was aired. And the question is, how have you guys been able to support your kids from a motor perspective within their relationship due to the impulsivity and unreliable nature of their bodies? So I'm not sure who wants to start, but it's pretty broad and pretty big, but it's something everyone's dying to know.
I'll take the lead as agreed. I think in all fairness of the situation, the first time that they met face to face, we had someone there to support. I don't know if it was supporting them, it was supporting us. And it felt like, Erin, you and I were being supported, really. It was more us than the kids, but the young adults. But so in that aspect, it helped tremendously because, it is the first time that I was seeing my son engage with a girl, and I had all the feelings that most parents do. I got nervous. I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. Do I stay here? Do I leave? Do I turn around? Do I watch? Do I look? Do I ask? So I would say the first encounter, we were fortunate to have someone there to support us and truly just sort of like guide the whole dynamics around of, okay, so really the uncharted territory that we had, let's experience. So really going back to the basics, let's ask. So what is it that you want to do? And it was interesting because obviously Kat being an unreliable speaker, she was saying some things, but she was spelling something else. Nico was moving one way and he wanted to move the other way. So I think the one takeaway was going back to the basics and really listening to them and communicating. What do you want to do right now?
Just, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to make sure I understand. So basically you had somebody else there that was not a mom, and that person was able to facilitate some of the communication on the letterboards. So that way the moms could kind of like take a step back and not, because you guys, like you said, you were like a little bit in panic mode.
yeah, you can
right?
Panic mode. Yeah, I think panic mode might be the right term.
Nice way of saying that. Laura and I panicked and left the room, and the CRP was left not with the bag and had to deal with it. But so my takeaway with that is, and the what I have to offer to parents is, make sure that you do have a neutral third party, a CRP available when that happens, because you think, I'm the cool mom, I'm cool, I can do this, it's no big deal. But when it's your kid and you want to run the other way, you better make sure that there's somebody there who's competent to support
Agree.
your kid. So you got to plan ahead.
Yeah, because you guys, obviously you're nervous, but then they're nervous too. Um, Nico talked about that in the last episode, even just how, holding hands is typically easy, but he couldn't even get his body to hold her hand. And so really the support is for everybody. It's for you guys as moms, and then for them. So then you have that third person, that third party, let's say, there, and that's able to communicate with both Kat and Nico. And then does that person kind of find out, like, so, what is it that you guys want to do right now, kind of thing, and then kind of coach the body to, is that how it works?
Yeah, I think the way, that's exactly how it went down, but it also takes a turn, because I think obviously the first couple minutes there is a lot of emotions from everyone in the room. So once you get back to the basics of really just, okay, so what do you want to do and what do you want to do, and then Erin and I were kind of just observing, then you can be more helpful. Because at first we were not helpful. It's not that I think we were not helpful at all. But once after we were guided to, okay, so it's not about us. It's never about us. So let's take a deep breath. Let's watch how the CRP is handling the situation, and then let's jump in with a helpful hand. So then, after the emotions come down a little bit, after there was a dance and the sitting on the couch a little bit and breathing, then you get into a little bit of a rhythm. But yeah, I will say prepare. A CRP definitely helps, because you think you have it under control, but once it hits you in the face, you're like, no, I don't have it under control. I don't know what I'm doing.
Agreed. Yeah. Well said.
Is it? Yeah. So, okay. So I just want to make sure that our listeners, because again, we had so many people kind of ask that question, like, how do you facilitate that? So it sounds like you kind of let someone else sort of take the lead on that, but that person kept really checking in on the letter boards and what do you want to happen, and then, or what do you guys feel like doing right now, and kind of checking in with both of them, and then being able to coach their bodies to hold hands, or to, because you even mentioned a dance. So I would imagine that would have been something that had to have been coached as well, right?
Yeah. So, and I think just to put it into context for whoever's listening, I think that matter. When you check in and they went like, how about we play some music? Like, great. So then the music starts, and I think Nico was dancing, and so it was a matter of just asking him. He goes, well, I would love for Kat to dance with me. And so, we check in with Kat, and she's like, yes, I want to dance as well. So then is the constant of, well, turn your body. You're dancing with her, not with me. You're used to dancing with me. You're not dancing with me. So turn 90 degrees that way. Keep your eyes that way. So it sounds almost like you are in a session, but not really, because it's sort of reminding them, not even reminding them, they know what they want, but just kind of guiding their bodies to the action that they want to take. So, but even then, that's as a parent, you're sitting there going, turn around. Like, oh God, I'm totally interrupting the mood here,
I think it's really important what you said about, it's almost like being in a session, to have a really well-trained CRP that can coach the motor and can see when Nico or Catherine might be struggling to turn their body, do something that ahead of time was expressed that they want to do. So I think that really, I think that that's my biggest thing with this is that don't think that you as a parent can handle it and can support it. You really need to have somebody else that can really facilitate the interaction, because that's where you're going to have, I think, the most success, and the kids are going to, because Catherine's told me many a time, no, she kicks me to the curb. She would rather have a plethora of other people support her.
Anyone but mom.
Anybody. And I feel like we have a pretty good relationship, but be that as it may. And I'm also a very, I'm a very experienced CRP myself. I would be the perfect match for someone else's kid to support their date, but not so much my own kid.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And then, for this too, you guys were talking about this first meeting. You guys were obviously there. Laura's talking about, coaching the body, and you were coaching theirs. And then, so there was really 3 adults there supporting them for the first time, which makes sense too. You think about even the nerves from your standpoint, and then from theirs as well. And I there were some of your friends, Nico and Kat, that I know specifically one in particular had asked you, Kat, about, your date, right? And she had asked, how you felt about the date, because, well, I guess I should back up a little bit. So that was kind of your first meeting. And then you guys did go out on a date where you didn't have the moms there, right? So I'm going to back up from my question just a little bit. That is really awesome. So you guys went out without your moms, and you went out with an adult, a trained CRP, somebody that you said, knows how to coach the body, is open and fluent on the boards with the kids. So can you tell our listeners, Erin or Laura, how did that get set up? How did you guys facilitate making that happen?
I guess I'll take the lead on that one, because Nico and his mom they came to us. They came to Atlanta, and so I knew they were coming, and I wanted to. And Catherine was pretty adamant that she wanted a real date with no moms. And so I started to look for a CRP that I thought would be appropriate. And this is a person who has actually supported another one of our friends, a couple who's dating in the past. So, it's a lot of planning. So I met with her, even though Catherine and her name is Tommy, had known each other in the past. They hadn't seen each other in a while. So we had the first meeting, just us, and they became reacquainted and worked on the boards and made sure that that was still, a nice flow and the fluency was there. And then I made another appointment when Nico and Laura came to town for all of us to get together, because it was important that Nico was, comfortable. I mean, Catherine loves Tommy, but I don't know. Nico could say, like, Tommy has bad, juju or something. And so we spent some time at the park, and they got to know each other. And Tommy spelled with Nico. Nico spelled, and so at that point, then we had the buy-in, and asked Nico, and he said, yeah, I feel okay with her. And then we scheduled another time for them to actually have the date where they would be autonomous without the moms, and just with Tommy there supporting both of them. And so it's a lot of planning and forethought, but that's what I think set it up for a really nice success. Everybody involved, I think, said
Yeah, I agree.
it was a good
I
one.
think, and we did. We got everybody thumbs up afterwards. Um, But yeah, I think that planning, because of them needing this support from someone else, from another trained CRP, that definitely has to happen. Um, I think the one of the words that kind of announced to me when you asked Evelyn was the request. Like, how do you deal with the request? And it's interesting because a lot of the conversations around the request, whether it is for their date, whether it's on Zoom, or I want to send a card, or I want to send flowers, very much happens on this side of the house when we're not even talking about it. I'm talking about dinner. And off he goes with, I need this to happen. You go, oh, okay, yeah, totally. I wasn't thinking of that. Um, so I think that all that autonomy that they bring to the conversation, it is the one thing that I keep being reminded by him of. You know, remember, there is so much more to me. There is so much more to me. So I think as much as we prepped for those moments that it is a big deal, like, we drove up to Atlanta, we spent 6 days there. It was like an Erin planned many wonderful days for us. It is also the requests that come on a day in and day out where, on a for someone who speaks, the kid might walk in the house and say, "Hey, mom, I'm gonna go out with so and so." That's not the case here. It's, aside from them being in different cities, it's also um, if they are capable of picking up the board and bringing it to us and say, "Hey, by the way, I would really like to send Kat a message." Um, Otherwise, it's like I said. I think it's also part of um, our new to do, which is let's check in. Maybe there is something that he wants to say about that, um, or maybe not. And I'm reminded of moments that I'm not even having that conversation, like I said before. So I think it's those are the things that I keep learning every day with him. That that I kind of have to make a mental note and say, oh yes, right, he is 17, and yes, he does have a girlfriend. Yes, he does think about these nice things that he wants to do, and therefore I have to make the time to allow him to express that.
Mm-hmm. So what I hear you saying is kind of a combination of things. Like he's in just typical everyday conversations that you're, hey, what do you feel like having for dinner? Or what's going, we're going to go here, whatever. And then he's just bringing this up naturally, which is awesome. But then also what you're saying too is remembering like, oh yeah, he's 17, he's got a girlfriend. Right. I should probably make a little extra time for some of these things. Like what do you feel like doing? Do you feel like talking about something? Do you want, so letting it occur naturally, but then also really being cognizant of what's going on and who he is and where he's at in life, and bringing that up into the conversation, into the dialogue. I think that's awesome. If there's anything you want to add, Erin, that's cool. Otherwise, there's some more questions from some.
I just wanted to say a little bit about the whole thing about alone time. I mean, Catherine is pretty has conveyed that she's pretty adamant about wanting to have alone time, alone.
That was where I was going next.
Yeah, without anybody in the room with Nico, and so we've talked about that quite a bit, and I think it's all about having a strategy. And she, when I posed this question to her, she said, she blew me away. She spelled, I need my lovely mama to help me fulfill my dreams, to be a girlfriend, a wife, and a mother. So,
yeah.
I think what needs to happen is, there's these baby steps that need to happen. Yeah, they want to be alone together in a room, but will the risk of dysregulation be too dysregulating? How do we start that? And so think we've talked before, and Nico made some really great suggestions about, just maybe starting with just like 5 minutes of them being in a room together by themselves. Or if they're in a room together by themselves, the CRP or moms are in the next room. The door's closed, so they're there, but we can hear them if they need help, and we can check in. It's like that baby steps. You don't go from I want to be alone with a boy to I want to be a wife and a mother. It's all these like little steps in between that we need to help support and foster, so that they can fulfill their dreams. And so it's going to be a long road, but I think it's breaking it down, just like anything with the motor. Break it down. So okay, what's the first thing we can do? How can we break this down to bring it to the next level?
Right. I'm really glad you brought that up. And Laura, you can chime in for sure. I know there was one of the kids' friends who had asked, like, if their date with the CRP really felt like a real date. And I know Kat's response, I'm just paraphrasing Kat, but it was kind of to the effect of like, it was cool, but I really want to have alone time. And so I think navigating that, so that everybody feels comfortable and safe, and that whole piece of regulation, because the impulsivity and is a factor. It's a real factor. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Laura.
Catherine also went on to say, because having autism goes along in tandem with dysregulation, I very well may need the help of Erin and others. Dysregulation is a common foe for me and Nico.
Yeah. So as much as you guys may want something to happen, dysregulation could occur, and then what? So like you said, Erin, like taking baby steps, having a plan, and it be very clear for everybody. So, hey, this is the goal, but should something come up, here's what plan B looks like, or here's, an escape route, so to speak, in terms of like, let's get you back and centered. Did you want to add anything, Laura?
I agree with all the above.
Excellent. So another question that came in, this one's pretty specific. I'm going to read it pretty slow. It says, this is for you moms. It says, how do you deal with what you learn or see in the spelled communication between the two about the relationship or any communications between a couple while acting as the CRP? And then they gave an example. For example, do you address it with your speller, like what's being said, or do you try to keep the CRP parent role separate and wait for the speller to communicate with you about it? Kind of a loaded question, but I think it's super valid.
Yeah, you want to go, Erin?
I feel pretty as a trained practitioner and CRP for other kids, and as well as I work with my own kid. I say you got to separate the parent and the CRP hat. If whenever possible, when these kids are interacting with each other, you need to engage another CRP, not you. But in the and it happens sometimes you can't do that. And as the parent, you're the CRP. You really need to not address anything. You need to take that parent hat off, and the role needs to be separate. And there may or may not be an opportunity later to talk about it. But that's a really hard thing to do. So my advice is to always not be in the middle of that if you can at all avoid it. But if you can't, you got to separate the two.
What do you think, Laura?
I will agree again. And I'm not a trained or trained to be anybody else's CRP. Um, but I will agree. I think the times where they have met and I have had to be this CRP. Um, I always say I love when Kat says it's not about us because it's not. It is truly about them. So we're there to um, put the ball in front of them and let them share what they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they want, and what they need at the time, and let it be. Um, yeah,
Really the conduit. We're the conduit to between the two. We're not.
right. That's where it stops. And now, if he comes afterwards and asks for um, advice, for a lack of a better term, to something, then yes, then that's definitely. And and Kat is pretty straight shooter like Nico as well. So they're 17, they're 17 and 18. If they need something, they will ask. They're not shy to. The beauty of having to spell to communicate, and most of these spellers say, is that they use their words wisely. So when they need something, they're gonna come and they're gonna tell us, um, this is what I need, or this is what I want, or this is what happened, or I need a little help. And if that's the case, then yes, I mean, they're to send her a note. There have been times where he's like, and I don't want you to think as my mom. I was like, okay, I'll try my best because sure I can take that easily. Um, so yeah, I think again, and if we can put our emotions aside, there is so much that we can learn from them. And but it also helps our relationship grow so much more when they do come to us for, hey, I need help on this is how I'm feeling. What do I do?
Mhm.
And I know a couple of times I have I'll say, call your uncle, call, call call my mom. I don't know. Call
Yeah. So then, okay, so obviously you guys live in different states. So although you've been together in person several times, um, the majority, I would say, of your get-togethers are virtual at this point right now, right?
correct.
Okay, so like virtual dates and stuff like that. So then for those,
Although it's like 13 days before we come to Florida and they get to see each other in person.
yay! um, so but those virtual dates, so then for those, do you also then try to get a CRP for each one? I mean, is that your goal, or how does that work?
I specifically asked Catherine when the last time Catherine asked Nico out and wanted to have a romantic dinner with candles. And I said, okay, I'll make that happen. Is it okay that I'm your and just ask, is it okay if I'm your CRP or would you prefer someone else? And I don't have the notes particularly, but it was pretty strongly stated that she kicked me to the curb. And yeah, so I, went into our circle of people, and we found one of her teachers, Carolyn, and so she stepped up to the plate, and as well as I don't know if that was Nico's suggestion, I guess, but he also had an alternative CRP at their last date. And it was
Okay.
wonderful, by the way. So I don't know what exactly happened. Doesn't matter. Catherine said it was.
Well, and actually, you bring an example.
Awesome.
So, yes, so I think we try, because it is their desire that we're not there all the time. So we do try to uh, kind of have someone else be their communication partner at the time. But I think that is also another, I think I don't know if you have questions for them or us, but another thing that we should bring up, and it is that when they're not with us, we don't need to know. the details of the conversation. Um,
Mm.
if they want to share with us afterwards, great. Um, if it is chat that they had because that's what they were doing, fantastic. I think as any parent in the world, as long as they're safe, they're good to each other, they're respectful, and we are being great humans to each other, I'm good. I don't need to know that.
Mhm.
So yeah, all I got from after that one was it went great. Thank you.
That's awesome. It's got to be so hard, but yeah, but that's talk about really a level of respect, you know, for your kids and for their privacy. And that's awesome. I know we are, those were like the big questions that really came up several times when parents reached out. And some of the spellers themselves. So I'm glad we got to kind of talk about those things. Now, just to kind of close us out, I'm going to ask you guys, Kat and Nico, do you have anything else you want to add before we sign off? Anything that you feel like you want to make sure our listeners hear?
I'm good. I had asked Catherine earlier this question, and she spelled good. Decidedly, I can say that it is important to make sure not only parents are feeding our minds, but also our hearts and our souls.
Wow. That is so beautiful. So well stated, Kat. And it's something I think so many people really need to hear. I'm going to just pause and we'll let Nico and then we can kind of.
For me, presuming competence as far as Catherine's intelligence came really easily. I mean, it was immediate. It was like light bulb went off. Okay, I get it. She's super smart. It's ridiculous. But when it comes to the heart and the soul, I'm much more hesitant. And from my perspective, and I, I celebrate the fact that I presume competence, but it begs the question of over what, where does that, where does that stop and start?
Yeah. I muted you, Laura. So whenever you're ready, you can share.
He say, I want parents and families to know that we will always need their support. There is so much more to us.
Mm. Yeah. And both of you, beautiful way to kind of wrap up this conversation. And yes, there's both of you basically hit the nail on the head. There's so much more, and it's so much more than what meets the eye. And that support is needed, right? But with the right supports, you guys can and will achieve and reach your goals. You'll achieve. I hate even to use the word achieve, but to reach your goal, right? And we all have dreams and hopes for our future, and we can all get there, whether neurotypical or not. Like we all rely on support. So I think that our listeners today have learned a lot from you ladies, moms. Thank you so much, because this is such a new territory, and but it's one that we can all learn from each other. So you guys are still in the midst of learning all these things, and you're still there going, well, I'm not sure how this next step is going to go, and that's okay. But I think that having these conversations and listening to each other and going, that's a better way, or I want to try it this way, and how can I show my son or my daughter the most respect and love and support. So thank you guys so much for being with me today. It was another wonderful episode. I hope our viewers were able to just glean, even if it was just one thing from today. I know they will be better off for it. So thank you guys. And I will see you guys soon. Thanks, Kat.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Nico. Thanks, moms.
Bye, Evelyn.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Mhm.